Today's story is a personal account of a man named Jack who recently discovered that his wife had been having an affair with a neighbor. Jack expresses his shock and disbelief about the situation, as well as the hurt and betrayal he feels. He describes the events that led to his discovery and his subsequent confrontation with his wife and the neighbor. Jack also discusses his struggles with self-esteem and his efforts to keep up appearances for the sake of their children. Ultimately, Jack is determined to figure out how to move forward from this difficult situation. And before the story begins, I ask you to subscribe to the channel and like this video. It is very necessary to promote the channel. Thank you for this.
You are very cool.
Let's go to the story right now. Hi there, I'm Jack. It's been a rough couple of days for me. I recently discovered that my wife has been having an affair with a neighbor who lives a few doors down. I never saw this coming, and it hit me hard. It's been tough trying to wrap my head around what's been happening. We've been married for 12 years and have 2 kids in elementary school. We always parented as a team, and I thought we had a solid marriage. But now, I'm not sure what to think. I feel betrayed and hurt that she would do this to our family. To make matters worse, my wife never acted differently, and I had no reason to suspect anything was going on. I trusted her completely and never thought she would be capable of something like this. I'm not sure where to go from here, but I know I need time to process everything. It's going to be a difficult road ahead, but I'm determined to do what's best for my kids and me. I'm still in shock, but I'm slowly starting to come to terms with what's happened. Last Monday, a retired neighbor asked me why Dan was visiting our house so frequently during the week when no one except my wife was at home. I was caught off guard by this because my wife had never mentioned anything about Dan coming over to our house. I confronted my wife about it, and she tried to play it down, saying that Dan had only come over once or twice to pick up his kids' games and books that they left at our house. But something about her response didn't sit right with me. I didn't want to push the issue at the time, but I had a gut feeling that something was going on. The next day, I called our retired neighbor from work and asked him to let me know right away if he saw Dan go to my house. Last Thursday, he called me around 11 a.m. to tell me that he saw Dan walking up to our house. That's when everything started to make sense, and I began to piece together what had been happening. It's been a tough few days, but I'm slowly coming to terms with everything. I never imagined that my wife would be capable of cheating on me, let alone with a neighbor who we considered a friend. But I'm determined to stay strong for my kids and figure out how to move forward from here. After getting a call from our retired neighbor telling me that Dan was going to my house, I decided to head back home from work to investigate. I entered through the door next to our garage, hoping to catch them off guard. Unfortunately, my gut feeling was right, and I caught them having sex in one of the spare bedrooms. It was a surreal moment, and I don't know how I kept my cool, but I turned around and left. My wife called and texted me repeatedly after that, but I didn't respond. I needed time to process everything that was happening. Later that day, I agreed to meet with my wife in the parking lot of my office building to talk. That's when she told me that she had been having an affair with Dan since September. It started innocently enough with them chatting at our kids' school bus stop in the mornings. That turned into Dan asking my wife for coffee. She invited him over, and a week later they started having sex. To make matters worse, they would meet 3 or 4 times a week, always making plans after putting the kids on the bus. I was devastated by this revelation, and it was hard to believe that my wife could do something like this to me and our family. To add insult to injury, I checked our phone bill, but there was no record of phone calls or text messages to him. It was like they had planned everything to make sure they wouldn't get caught. It's been a tough time for me, but I'm slowly coming to terms with everything and trying to figure out how to move forward. After my wife admitted to having an affair, she told me that she didn't know why she did it. She said that she was flattered by the attention and got caught up in the excitement of it all. But hearing this was a massive blow to my self-esteem. I felt inadequate and wondered what I did wrong to make her turn to someone else. What hurt even more was that my wife seemed to be enjoying sex with Dan in a way that she never did with me. Dan was taller and in better shape than me, and I couldn't help but feel like I wasn't good enough for her. To make matters worse, I had to tell her parents, brother, and sister about the affair that same day. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I also kicked her out of the house, and she's been staying with her parents since last Thursday. I went to Dan's house Thursday night to confront him. I told him to stay away from my family and leave us alone. He didn't have much to say for himself, but he did look ashamed. I was also able to get in touch with his wife via email, who was traveling for work at the time. Her response was simple: "Thank you for telling me." I can only imagine what kind of shock and disbelief she must have been in after finding out about her husband's affair. I'm really struggling with how to move forward after discovering my wife's affair. Our kids think that she's just at their grandparents' house to help them out, but the truth is that I kicked her out of the house. It's tough trying to keep up the facade that everything is okay for the sake of our children. I feel like I'm constantly going back and forth between wanting to save our marriage and wanting to divorce her. Part of me is still in shock that this is happening, and I'm struggling to come to terms with the betrayal. My wife claims that she's never cheated with anyone else, but I'm having a hard time believing her. To make matters worse, there have been a few occasions over the past few weeks when we were together with Dan and his family, and it makes me feel sick to my stomach. I can't even imagine what my wife must have been thinking during those times. It's all just so overwhelming, and I don't know how to make sense of it all. I will add some of my thoughts on this story. I think that discovering your wife's affair has been a traumatic experience for you. You're understandably hurt, betrayed, and struggling to come to terms with everything that has happened. However, it's important to keep in mind that this is not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong to make your wife cheat on you. It's crucial to take time to process your emotions and heal from this experience. Consider seeking therapy or counseling to help you work through your feelings and develop coping mechanisms. It's also important to prioritize self-care, including getting enough sleep, exercise, and spending time with supportive friends and family members. When it comes to your wife, it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to try to salvage the relationship. If you do, it will likely require a significant amount of work on both of your parts, including counseling and open, honest communication. If you decide that you cannot forgive her, that is also a valid choice, and you should not feel guilty for prioritizing your own needs and well-being. Remember to be kind to yourself during this difficult time. It's okay to feel a range of emotions, and healing is a process that takes time. Keep in mind that there is no one right way to handle this situation, and only you can decide what is best for yourself and your family moving forward. Friends, thank you for listening to this story. If you have your thoughts about this story, I would like to hear them. Leave comments under the video. Also, don't forget to support the channel. Like this video and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the bell. It will help you not to miss new stories on this channel. Thank you for your attention, and I wish everyone success in life. See you soon.
Goodbye.